Hey everyone, so it is dark and rainy outside today. So what I'm going to do is, instead of working in the garden, I'm going to take you around on my regular houseplant watering day. I'll share some of the tips and tricks that I've picked up over the years for my different types of plants, and then also do just like a mini houseplant tour at the same time. A little bit of background. So I definitely used to tend more toward overwatering my plants than underwatering them. In fact, when I first started collecting plants, I thought you watered them every day. Turns out that is not correct. And then I also thought, okay, well, maybe it's not every day, but you water all of your plants at the exact same time. Also not true. So I'm going to take you around, show you the different plants that I have, how I water each of them. And before I actually start taking you around with me, I just want to talk about the different things that I use and kind of how I set up my watering routine. So every week I go around and check every single plant. That doesn't mean I necessarily water it every week, but I at least want to just take a quick look at it, assess the moisture, see if it needs to be watered or not. In order to do that, I like to use this moisture meter. I think I got it off of Amazon. I've had it for about 3 or 4 years, works really well. You can also just use your finger, but I find that this just works a little bit better for me because sometimes with my finger on some plants that don't necessarily like it to be too moist, I still don't know, I go back and forth. So I like using the moisture meter, and then I'll also wipe it off in between with a towel just to make sure I'm not carrying over some moisture from the previous plant when I'm moving on to the next plant. If it is the fertilizing week, I'll go around with this and just fertilize all of my houseplants. I do this once a month during the growing season, so about April to October, I'll go around and fertilize all of my houseplants. And then at the beginning of the growing season every year, I do also check my plants and just add in some fresh potting soil at the top in case there are any plants that have kind of lost soil over time as it has settled. So like I mentioned, I do this once a week. Doesn't mean I water every week. I try to make that happen every Tuesday. I'm really good about it in the winter because there really isn't anything else that is distracting my attention. But during my garden season, I do get a little bit distracted. So it might happen on Tuesday. It might shift a little bit later to Wednesday and Thursday, but I'm at least checking it once a week. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you around this room, which has most of my plants, and then the room next door, which has a few of the larger plants, show you how I water them, and then we'll just get to it. So right now we are in my office. This is my plant shelf here. The very top of the plant shelf pretty much stays the same all of the time, especially the pothos, because it's now trailing along the wall, so I can't very easily move that. But everything down below, I do kind of change up just with my mood. Some of the plants on here I know need to be watered weekly. So these up here at the very top, because they're in small terracotta pots, they do dry out every week. So I don't even test the moisture on those. I just know that it's time to water them. I will test the moisture on the plants in these larger pots, but typically these do need to be watered once a week also. Same thing with this guy down here. So these are more water-loving plants than some of my other ones. So these do typically get watered once a week. And then I have my succulents. So this crassula right here, I was actually having issues with overwatering, and I could tell because the leaves were dying back near the top of the plant. So what I do now, and I do this for most of my succulents, is I go in and I just give the leaves a little squeeze. And if they feel thick and firm, I know they have water. If they are a bit more malleable, like they are right now, I know that they need to be watered. So this guy's gonna get watered today. Coming down here, so this is the candelabra I've turned into a planter. I have some string of pearls propagations that I added. And even though these are in relatively small containers, I mean, if you look in here, you can see how tiny the actual pot is. But because they're succulents, they don't need to be watered as often. So this one, again, I will just kind of squeeze on the pearls. They feel firm, so that one is not gonna get watered. And then down here, I have my ZZ plant. This one, because I think it's in a larger pot, the pot is plastic, it tends not to dry out very fast. So this one is usually about once every 2 weeks. So let's check if this one needs to be watered today. So I'm just coming in here with my moisture meter, sticking it down in there, and you can see it's at like the lowest end of moist, pretty close to dry, and I did stick it pretty far down in there. So this one I am going to water today also. Swinging around the room, saying quick hi to the garden. I also have this pothos along the wall as well. So this one is in a little hanging basket. I don't know why, if it's because it has a little bit fewer vines than my other one, but this one doesn't typically need to be watered every week. This one is usually about that kind of every 2 weeks as well. And this one, because the pot is smaller, I do like to use my finger instead of the moisture meter. So just sticking it in there, and I can tell right away that soil is still moist. So this one is not going to get watered today either. So let's go ahead and actually water these plants. Now, if the plants have saucers like this one does, again, because I can't move it, I will water it just in place where it is. So this one, just gonna give it a drink, and I am going to water it until I actually see water flow down from the saucer. So again, you want to water deeply, so wait for the plant to dry and then give it a good drink. This one also has a saucer built into the pot, so I'm going to water this one the same way. So I'm just gonna actually take it out so I can see it. And then give it a good drink of water. Okay, this guy has been thoroughly watered. So coming up here then, for any plants that don't have saucers, I will actually take them into the bathroom. And if they're small like these, I'll pull them up at the sink. If they're a bit larger like this one, then I'll set them in the shower and water them there so that the water can drain out into the shower drain. Now we are in the living room area, and this is where I have the majority of my larger plants. So they're all in larger containers. They typically hold moisture a little bit longer. So all of these I also check with my moisture meter, and I like to check it all first. That way I know how many plants I need to water. Then I'll go fill up my pitcher and go around and water whichever ones need the extra moisture. So we'll go ahead and start over here with my Aglaonema. I think this is actually the plant I've had the longest. So we are looking pretty good in there, more on the higher moist side, so this one is not getting watered. Now my cordyline over here, I know this one likes to be a little bit more moist than average, so I don't go too far down when I check this one. Yeah, so even just a couple inches, it's dry, so I know I'm gonna have to water this one. Snake plant is a little bit different. So obviously your snake plant, this is probably the plant I water the least. They don't like to be wet really at all. So when I got this plant, basically what they told me at the garden center was to pick it up and stick your finger in the drainage hole at the bottom. If the drainage hole feels dry, then it's time to water. If not, then you can actually just keep it as it is. So see if I can actually do this. Bounce you right there for a second. But if I pick this up, essentially what I do is come down here, stick my finger in and see if it feels moist. And it does, and I know it does because I just watered this a few weeks ago. I think maybe it was 2 weeks. I'd say overall I water my snake plant once every 2 months, maybe 3 months total. Coming up over here, this is what's going to hopefully someday be a very thick pothos curtain. So it's pretty thick at the top. The vines were short when I started it. They're all from propagations of my other pothos plants that you just saw in the other room. So I've propagated them in water, planted them all up in this flower box, and I'm hoping to have a thick, long curtain that trails down behind the couch. Now this one I will stand up on the couch and check the moisture. Yeah, here we're pretty good too. Since this one is a little bit longer, I will check in a few different spots. just to make sure I'm getting kind of similar readings across all of it, which I am. So this one is good. Now when I water it, there are drainage holes in the bottom that go directly onto the shelf. So I don't water it up here. I will take it down, set it on a table, or take it into the shower and water it in there. But this one is good for this week. So far I think just the cordyline is gonna get watered. Coming over here to the Dieffenbachia, I don't know how to say it. But this has had crispy leaves on it on the corners ever since I bought it. So it was crispy when I bought it. I've tried to keep up with moisture, regular fertilization, and they still just get these crispy corners. So if anyone knows what to do about this, please let me know. So this one I'm gonna check as well. And we're actually looking pretty good there. It's a little bit above the average moist level. Coming over here, I have a little tiny philodendron. That one is more on the lower end, so I probably will give this one a quick drink. And then I have another tiny philodendron up here. Now this one I can pretty much usually tell just by looking at the color of the soil, but yes, this one is very moist. So we are not gonna water that one. So just that guy and that guy in terms of this area over here. Closer to these windows, which I know it's a little bit hard to see with the sun, but I have my larger string of hearts plants here, and I have my smaller ones that I've propagated from larger ones over here. Since it's a little bit easier to see, I'll kind of show you what I do with my string of hearts for watering them on this side, and it's the same thing I do with the Calico Kitten Crassula. So instead of just watering or checking the soil, because I know these like a little bit drier, I'll again just see kind of how firm or not firm the leaves are. So this one, pretty bendy on some of them. This one actually feels good. And again, I'm not checking every leaf because, well, that would take a while. But if I just grab a few kind of from different spots along the vine, I can usually tell. This one's also pretty bendy, so that one's gonna get watered. Oh, this one I can already tell needs water as well. So these three are getting watered. This is just another plant, my Hoya carrii, that I know likes to get watered once a week, so I'm gonna do that. And then this guy actually I know just got watered 2 days ago because it was needing it pretty badly, so I know I don't have to water that one now. So I'll go ahead and get everything in this room watered. Okay, so all of my plants that need to be watered now are. Today was pretty fast because not a lot of my plants needed to be watered. I think it maybe took me about 15 minutes total. I'd say normally it takes me about 30 minutes to go around, a little bit longer if I'm fertilizing or if I see any pests that I need to obviously control. But when I do water my plants, I like to put on a little podcast. That way I have something that I can listen to while I walk around and water them. But thank you so much for watching today. I hope I could share some helpful tips, especially if, like me a few years ago, you might have overwatered your plants too often. But as you kind of get your plants, get more used to your plants, get to know them a little bit better, you kind of know what they need and when. Like I mentioned, some of these plants, I don't even really need the moisture meter now because I just know what they need. And then obviously in winter, when it's not the growing season, they typically need even less water. So that is everything. If there's any questions or tips that you have, please leave them in the comments below, and then I will see you in the next video. Bye!